inspired. Heartbeat 104.1. Radio for women and the men who love them.
Two minutes after the hour of 9 o'clock is the time. Welcome to our fourth and final hour here inside the Heartbeat Sunrise with Celine on your Tuesday. And today we're choosing life. This month of September is a suicide prevention month. We would have observed the day last week, Tuesday, which was the 10th of September, but for the entire month there is cognizance. We're taking cognizance of suicide and suicide prevention because we are seeing the stories coming up in our dailies. We're seeing it in both mainstream and social media, and yet we still have alarming numbers taking place. It's a very somber topic to talk about, but it's a must, simply because there are people who are sitting in our homes, people sitting in our offices, people sitting next to us in the taxi, or just people that you see every day, and until you hear something has happened, then you realize what their struggle has been. Now, we know all of us are struggling with something in life, and that's what makes life so interesting. It is indeed a roller coaster, as I would have said earlier. But we have to choose the ways in which we handle this. And this is why we have Tuesday. And I love to remind you guys about what we do and some of the aspects of our lives that we want to focus on, and choose to either a different approach or choose to celebrate how we have been approaching life. It's one life we have to live. But you know what? We don't get to end it when we want to, because it somehow leaves this mark of there's so much that could have been done, both on the side of the person who's contemplating or who would have taken their life, and on their loved ones and the community at large. So this morning I introduced to you, well, this man needs no introduction because this is his third time here with us, Johanse Ayodike. I love chatting with Johanse, behavior change specialist at not specialist anymore, it's a consultant at Ayodike Consultancy. And so I welcome you to Heartbeat Radio again, Ayodike. Johanse Ayodike, thank you so much for being here.
Celine, thank you very much for having me again, and I'm excited.
Yes.
And I say excited because you may think that suicide, I shouldn't feel excited,
Right.
but I'm excited about helping people understand.
Of course. Yeah.
Right? And the saying, knowledge is power.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
with more understanding of it, we could have more control, more management, more the ability to empower yourself, whether you are somebody who may be contemplating suicide, or even you have someone around you contemplating suicide.
Yeah.
So where you want to start, or you just want me to start?
Let's look at, I want to use some examples, of things that we've heard about on the national level and internationally as well. But before we get into that, can we talk about suicide? It's a word that we hear all the time. Where did that word even come from?
That's a good question. And I'll do some research on, because for me, I like to simplify things, right?
Yeah.
So what's a simplified definition of suicide? And I look, and the simplest is the act of someone killing themselves. Now, in this day and age, in some cases, you can't even use the word suicide publicly. You can't use the word suicide in certain posts because it is censored. And even using the word kill is sometimes censored.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it's interesting to me because it's the truth. And when we avoid or skirt away from the truth and we don't face it, then we don't even have the power to do anything about it. And some cases, that's what even causes people to contemplate suicide, because we're not facing the reality
That's right.
of things. And I'm starting there because the truth is the truth.
Yep.
Many times we say it's a harsh reality or the harsh truth, but what is harsh is a lie. And when we live in a lie, then we could feel disempowered. Then we could feel weak. And when the truth, of course, rears its head again, because it always does.
It will, for sure.
We will be even less prepared for it. And in my experience, with personally, even feeling my own thoughts of suicide, I've had at times, and even dealing with clients, the major reason for us having suicidal thoughts, suicidal ideations is we cannot figure out the solution to a problem.
Right. Back up a little bit there. You said something about even you having thoughts of that. Is it that you enter this space to see how someone else would have been thinking?
No. Okay, so let me explain it. Suicidal ideations into suicidal, right? Think of it as a meter from low to high.
Right.
So in my experience, and people listening and yourself, all of us have had suicidal ideations. So let me tell you what is a suicidal ideation. You can't figure out a problem. I wish I wasn't born, yes? I wish I could just go and sleep for years and never wake up. I wish I didn't exist. All of us have thought this once or twice, right?
That's
so
the
that's
ideation.
the lowest.
Right, okay.
Right? So if you have those thoughts enough times, consistently over weeks, months, it tips the scale and becomes suicidal. So now it becomes part of you. Those thoughts becomes part of you. So where you actually start thinking about, well, I wonder how it will be without me. I wonder how people will survive without me. I wonder what I could do to kill myself. And you start planning it in your mind because it becomes a habit. If you experience that feeling of hopelessness, that living every day without a solution to whatever is the problem.
Right. Okay, so this is why you said those thoughts come about because we don't have a solution to the problem. Okay.
Right. So I'm putting that I also experience that because sometimes, and now because I have the awareness, when I think it, I could laugh to myself and say, okay, Johansi, you reach the stage where you can't figure the solution to whatever it is. And of course, it's not just any problem. It depends on the gravitas of the problem. Right? So let's say I can't figure out where to get a part for my car and I need my car. That's one end. But let's say I have a life issue. I'm trying to figure out how to help a sick relative, how to help something that's a little more dire. And I'll feel differently. So I am helping people even understand that because many times when we hear the word suicide, we get these adverse reactions to it. I don't even want to think about it. And sometimes that's the issue. Yeah. Because even when someone says something that, I wonder how it will be without me, boy. Nah, don't talk like that. Don't talk like that. You don't even want to hear it because it also stirs something in you.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Right? But I'm saying it is to face it. That's the important part.
It's all about making sure that not just making sure, but as you say, facing the truth. That's the first step, and it will help you start compartmentalizing stuff. This is the thing with thought processes or anything that comes up in our lives. If we're calm enough to say, well, all right, let me see how I could approach this situation. It's always in steps. And a lot of the times people tend to say, I was having a conversation recently, and the person actually told me, you always come in with this stupidness about therapy. I actually chuckled because I'm like, yo, I didn't want to insult the person and say you're being ignorant because they're just not there yet. But I'm like, you find this stupidness, but at the end of the day, for somebody I have gone through therapy, so I understand the benefit of it. And to say that it's stupid without opening your mind or trying to see it from a different perspective, I just discarded it as ignorance. But I was like, So then I asked the question, so then how do you think you could address this problem? Do you think you could do it on your own? Do you think you're equipped with everything? I said, because whilst we may think that, yes, we could sit in our own private spaces and address everything, it's literally spinning top and mud if you do not have someone to share it with. And then the people that you share certain things with, we might think is people that we trust, and you could vent, but are they equipped to share with us or to tell us the honest truth? Some people are they're so guarded by, I don't want to hurt his or her feelings, that I'm not going to say this. I too am very guilty of that, because depending on who I'm speaking with, I want to bring the truth to you, but I just kind of temper it so I know it's not going to make you feel worse.
Why? Why is temperate?
Because I think that you have to know your people. So if I'm speaking to someone who I already know is very sensitive and they're in a space of being frustrated or whatever, how am I going to say to you, but I told you this already and you keep doing this all the time, you're too nice and whatever? I'll be like, well, you know what? How do you think you should have treated with that situation now that you feel like this? That's how I will approach it. Rather than tell them what it is I have to tell them. I told you this already, and I just find we need to be a little more sensitive in terms of how we are addressing the truth, even though you're bringing the truth.
All right. So, sensitive. The caveat to truth is to always say your truth with respect.
Right.
Right? So, let's not even say sensitive with respect, because the point is, if somebody is being too nice in a situation, you have to tell them they're being too nice. If they're always on hopes and dreams and spending the money on things that you know not realistic, you have to tell them that, because if you keep them in that state, that could actually be worse. And that's why I'm going with the truth is not harsh. What is harsh is a lie. So even if it's a lie by omission and you're buttering up the person, eventually they will. If it's a money problem, by the end of the year, they waste $100,000 versus you tell them stop that shoppiness in the first month and they only use $10,000, but they vex with you for a little while.
Yeah, because
they didn't reach the stage.
They didn't reach
of,
that
of
stage.
spending
And then eventually
the
they will-
100,000.
Yeah, and then eventually they might get to the point of saying, you know, she was right.
Right. So I'm saying that because addressing. So this is for anyone to, even in their own life situation, and this is how I deal with people who come to me with suicidal cases, whether it is a family member or a friend, they're helping someone or themselves. Actually, no. Before I go to that, let me come back to the person with therapy who say that's wasting your time. The word therapy, yes, it may have a dictionary meaning, but of course, every word has a sentiment and an emotion that comes with it for each person. And so even for me, that's why I categorize myself as a behavior change consultant, because when you say I'm a counselor, I don't need no counseling.
Yeah.
Right? Or I have no problems.
Yeah.
If you say as a psychologist, I'm mad. Even though that's not what psychologists do, right?
Exactly.
And so when I say I'm a behavior change consultant or a behavior change, well, I'm sure I have some behavior I need to change. And that is the key. Everybody, including myself, have a behavior that we want to change.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because none of us perfect, right?
Yes.
Although some people think they're perfect, right? But none of us perfect. So every time we have a behavior to change, we need a solution for it. Now, if we have a behavior that we unsure of where it comes from, we would some sort of trauma we don't know, this is where we seek solutions. So I using the word therapy. When you seek a professional, is really a solution you're going for.
Right.
Understand well where it's coming from, why you're feeling this way, whether you want to call it depression, anxiety, demotivation, suicide, addiction. All of these are behaviors that you want to change, and you don't have the solution for it. So if I am crying every day, right, and after I say, you know what, I'm feeling depressed, what you want to change is the behavior of crying every day.
Right.
So therefore, you go get a solution. Once you find the solution, then you could see, even if it is a 5-year plan, at least you could see a way. And that reduces and sometimes eliminates even that thought of, well, I just want to disappear. I just want to die.
Right.
So anxious, I hate feeling anxious. You know what? I just want to die. Okay, if you find out what causing the anxiety, where it comes from, this is a possible solution for it. Oh, okay, I don't really like how I feel, but I could see myself, or at least I have something to try.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that was something to try. A lot of clients, I give homework, right, in my sessions, and sometimes people are so glad for the homework. It's funny how things switch now. In school, you ain't glad for the homework now, but now you get big and glad for the homework. They're glad for the homework because I have something to do.
Right.
Whether it is written homework, action homework, I have something to do. And this is what helps all of us in terms of even overcoming suicide. Or suicidal ideations. I have something to do. I have a solution. I even have 10 different things to try to see if I could come out of this situation.
Yeah. Wow. I like that. You see, and again, we come back to the point of breaking it down and not looking at it as a whole. Because sometimes this is where the overwhelm comes from.
Correct.
When you look at it all as one thing and it's just this whole massive thing coming at you. But when you start breaking it down, you realize it is actually manageable. So, Johan, say, how do we get to speak with someone? I remember asking you just before we went on air, if you've had a patient...
Client. Nobody comes to me sick.
Sorry.
Nobody's sick.
right now. If you've had a client who was contemplating suicide and eventually did it, or if you've had a client who's a family member, close relative to someone who has committed suicide,
I've never had a client who committed suicide
Mm-hmm.
because in my tenure of learning different techniques, solution focused method is what holds true to me.
Nice.
There's always a solution. It always have a solution to something. Even if I don't have the exact solution, I could point you in any direction
Right.
or finding the solution. So
Yeah,
that's my
yeah.
philosophy. Always a solution.
Yeah.
So that's one. Two is, yes, I've done counseling with work, at a workplace. I remember say this is significantly that the person committed suicide and their colleagues were highly affected by it, and it was difficult because the general sentiment was what I could have done differently to prevent this. Should I have reached out to the person? Should I have said something? Maybe this was a sign. And what I would always say to people is that most people act in their truth. So if somebody, I just give an example, if you see somebody and they're looking a little depressed, you would evaluate if you could even handle talking to that person. Because sometimes in the moment you going through your own stuff.
Yeah.
And you thinking, wait, this person looking sad, I don't know if I could deal with this. And let's just say you do that and the person commits suicide the day after. You may think, well, I should have, but in the moment the truth is you didn't want to. So I'm saying if you didn't want to, don't hold on to the guilt because you dealing with your own stuff.
Yeah.
That's one. But two, if it's your friend, if you're prepared to help somebody, then as a friend, as a family member, then the easiest thing is to ask somebody, how could I help? Sometimes we diagnose what's going on with them. You see, I know you should not do this all the time. You see all these, and sometimes you assume. So that that energy you're coming with is offensive. Can be offensive.
Yeah.
It can be aggressive.
Yeah.
So the person therefore would now retreat or be in defense mode. And if they really need some assistance, they won't open to you. So something simple is, how can I help you? Do you need any help? And the person can say yes or no, right? And you wouldn't believe. Just asking someone that, even if they say no, is a help,
Totally agree.
Because, it has somebody who wants to help me. Even though they say no,
Yeah.
right? It still has somebody to
Yeah.
help me.
Yeah.
And being honest is real important, because when even somebody comes to you to talk, so now let's say the person decides to open up. If you're not in the space to hear that person, right? Sometimes even to be honest about what you could give. Because next thing you're there pretending you're listening to the person. And then the person asks you a question. And you
can't
right.
You can't recall the last thing they just said.
That worse than if you wasn't listening to them
Totally
at
agree.
all.
Yeah, because they feel betrayed at that point.
Right.
Of like, what? You just told me you're going to help me. So what was this about?
Correct.
You're not even listening to what I just said.
Correct.
Yeah, that could, wow.
Right? And before we came online, we were speaking about not giving the run-of-the-mill cookie cutter vanilla responses to suicide.
Yeah.
So what I want to do is give more the practical, and these are practical things, because solutions are real important.
Yep.
Everyone, 100% of everyone who I've dealt with in terms of having suicidal ideation or suicidal, once we find a solution, they're ready to go, even if the solution way down the road.
Right.
So that's one. And then two is resilience. Resilience is an important factor to whether you even reach the stage of feeling suicidal or suicidal ideation.
Yes.
Because if you grow up, sometimes the harsher the environment you grew up in, the least likely you are to feel suicidal, because I went through all already,
Yeah.
Right? So when this thing come now, yes, it's hard, but look how much things I went
Yes.
through. I'm not even thinking about the killing myself or harming myself in any way.
Yeah.
Right? But if you grew up in a life where you're sheltered,
In the bubble.
correct, and many of our parents responsible, and I'm not blaming them, because they were coming from a place of sincerity.
Yes.
Whereas I want to give my child everything I didn't have.
That I didn't have, yes.
But the work that you put in to get those things is what forged you into the person you are.
Yeah.
So if you're depriving the child from the work, then when they reach out in the real world, where's all of this? I never experienced this before. Nobody trained me for this before. I have no solutions for this. So you know what? I just want to kill myself.
Yep.
Right? And I'm being straight about that, because in this generation, maybe in the last 5 years, is where I've heard,
Oh my gosh, yes.
not even necessarily people doing it, just hearing
Just
it.
hearing the
I
talk.
just want the dead.
Yeah, they say it so loosely. My daughter says these things jokingly to her friends when they're laughing at something. Why you don't just kill yourself? I said, I don't want you using those words. I don't want you saying it because words have power, and what you're putting out there, you're manifesting that, jokingly or not. Don't do it. And she will be like, oh gosh, why are you so sensitive? You need to chill. I was like, no, darling. Somewhere down the line, if that person is going through something difficult, somehow those words just resurrect. And it might be what your words said, but it's something that they're accustomed hearing, so it's easier for it to come back in their recall. So don't do it.
And then we as Trinidadians,
Where do you get our strippers from anyway?
that's a good question. When we give in Pekong and we sarcastically telling people things, the way we say it and the emotion we say it with sometimes can hit very hard. Because if somebody come and do something and you say, why you don't just dead? You know, right? That could be a joke depending if the person okay.
Yeah.
Well, you should put and go ahead. But if it's a day when the low,
Listen.
right?
Listen, that I truly believe in that. This is why when you're making jokes with friends and stuff, I'm very careful about that too. Because as you said, you just don't know what people are going through because everybody seems to be okay, right? And so I really try not to make those kinds of jokes simply because something could be the trigger.
That is true. And it's not fair now to walk around on eggshells. You can't tell people anything.
Right.
Right? But if it's somebody you know, right? You could be a little sensitive. You could be sensitive to them. And you must notice. If somebody you know, you must notice a change in them. You must notice.
Yes.
And I seen a change. Then no specific change. Because if the person like to eat plenty and they start to eat a little bit, that's a change. If they like to eat a little bit and they start to eat plenty, that's a change.
Yeah.
If they're usually jovial and then now they're sad, that's a change. If they're usually sad and they're jovial, all of those things are changes. So is the change more important? People always ask, well, what is the signs of suicide, etc.? Yes, we could look online and see some specific changes, right? And specific signs, but also you will know when something different in somebody.
You will know.
And of course, with a stranger, you wouldn't know. But once it's somebody familiar, you would know.
Well, we're talking about a stranger here, but in that last situation, unfortunate incident in Tobago where the young woman it's alleged that she took her life and her children's lives. We're still not too clear on what happened there, right? But this is what is assumed in the space right now. So using that as an example, people said that they saw her walking through the neighborhood naked, or she would have been asking for help and whatever. Not saying that she was going to end her life, but she was distressed. You could tell that she was distressed. She was depressed because following the story, that's all you kept hearing. You know, she was really depressed and all of that. If it is that we are saying to people, you will see the signs and choosing not to act on it, what do you think, Johanse, could be something that could have helped that situation? If it is that we had to inject now something that could have prevented this woman from taking her life and her children's lives, what do you thought the people in the community could have done?
Well, again, we don't have all the information. So some of the things I'm saying maybe was done. Right?
Yeah.
But one is to call some sort of authority. So if you see a woman walking naked in the street, walking naked in the street is a offense. Is a criminal offense.
Yeah.
So call the police. At least start with that. Wherever the police take it, the police will take it somewhere else besides just doing nothing. I'm sure there are all other social services.
Yeah.
My point is call somebody.
Call somebody. Yeah.
Right? We could give police, we could give the Ministry of Social Development, we could do the hospital, we could just call someone if you really want to help and you realize you don't have it in you to help.
Right.
Just call someone.
I just find that there's so many different aspects to look at, and the way it's a really broader sort of a topic, because as you were saying before, you're already dealing with your vicissitudes of life, and to notice this in someone else, yes, you want to help, but when you do now go and you help this person, you get bashed for it, right? Mind your business or whatever. But I mean, at that point, whatever the response is, that's another junction that you get to. That is another hurdle that you cross and say, you know what, I did my best, this is to help out, but you still did something.
Right, and that's the part. So even though you reach out and the person refuse it,
right,
you did your part.
Yeah.
Right? And make sure you could be honest with yourself and say, I did my best.
Now, before we wrap up, I want to take this, and I hope that, sometimes people, when you hear about suicide, a lot of the times people say, oh gosh, boy, you do this, boy, how you going to do this to the family, you would leave the children, boy, or you hear things like that, and some people actually get angry when they hear that someone has taken their life, because it's like, you could have talked to somebody, boy. And yes, people will have mixed reviews about things like that, because they'll say like, but how could you talk to someone if you don't even know that you're in that space where you felt as though you needed to talk to someone, right? People tend to say that that's a selfish act, because you think you end your life and you go on without your worries, but you leave everybody else to grieve and everybody else to deal with that. As what about the person who would have discovered you? What about the person who now has to take up the slack of whatever you left behind that you couldn't deal with? What do we say to people who are probably contemplating a suicide, or probably just snap second did it in a day? You never saw any signs before and it just happened. But you can't say anything to them because they're gone. But if we were in a position to put that step in just before they actually commit this act, what is something that we could possibly say or do?
So I'll go from two perspectives. To one, the person not contemplating, and then two, if people are the people around, maybe you have somebody who you think is contemplating. The person contemplating suicide I'm saying that there's a solution to everything. There truly is a solution, even if it takes long. Even if you have a 10-year plan to a solution, there's always a solution. One. Two is that I'm saying just reach out and talk to someone. We have enough hotlines. I mean, again, every year we talk about this, but I'm saying it have hotlines. Call IODK consultancy. Call somebody. I have a service called the Honesty Hour, right? Where you could just come and you could just cuss if you want. You could just say the things that you always wanted to say, that you feel like you don't have the space to say. And saying that is, even for the person contemplating, do something that is a form of creation or freedom, where you could come out of the box, you think. So if you like to paint, if you like to sing, if you like to draw, if you like to wave, if you like to swim, it's something that give you a little freedom. And to those around you, if you notice somebody who not themselves, one, give them the space by saying, how could I help you?
That's right.
What help do you need? Or just say, well, come online with me now, or come and do this, or find out what they like. I mean, if he is a friend, you may know. But most times, movement is important. Now, not only physical movement, right? Drawing, painting, mental, emotional, because sometimes we feel stuck. So even if the movement is not exactly in the direction of the solution to the problem, it's movement. It's like if you're not home, you just want something to do, so you get up and you clean. Right?
Oh gosh,
right? You just clean. And the cleaning is movement. So therefore now it clears your mind, or gives you the motivation to do something else. So that's what I would say. There's always a solution. And give yourself, or if it's people around, give that person the space to move. Mental movement, emotional, spiritual movement, physical movement.
There is always a solution. Please hear this. There is always a solution. And very many ways in which you can, and the power of sharing is that you realize there are so many people who are experiencing similar situations to you, and you might say, oh gosh, but that doesn't help me, because it's still problems, but at least it's not you alone. Because a lot of the times you hear people saying, I feel so alone, and that might be the reason why this person did that, took their own life. But you're not alone.
Yes, we're not alone.
We are not alone. Even if it's the voices in your head, you're not alone.
Anytime I'm facilitating a group, or even in a group of people, and you're just talking, no matter about what, always somebody say, you going through that too? Right? I didn't know. Okay. And at the end, they say, oh, well, one thing they say, I realize I am not alone. So, one, there's always a solution. And two, to everybody listening, you're not alone.
You are not alone. And just be very open and honest with yourself about what you're feeling, Call it what it is. We can, as Johanse was saying before, you're not perfect. We are not perfect. So, okay, I'm having a horrible day today. My morning didn't start off well at all. I came in here like literally wanting to pass out. I don't know. And I said, oh gosh, why did the day have to start like this? But I'm like, yeah, but I DK come in here.
Right.
And I want to have this conversation so that the audience can benefit from this sharing. And that started to really put something more positive in the space for me.
Because that's movement. And
it is.
Just speaking is
yeah.
movement. I say the person who was talking about therapy before, just talking
Yep.
is movement, even though sometimes talking to your friend may not be exactly about the topic. Just movement. And that's what I was saying. Don't stay stagnant with the energy, because
That's
after a while, the energy could become heavy on you. And again, even though it's not the exact solution, move.
Yeah, make sure to move. And we encourage you to dance. Wind down the place if you have to. Go and take a run. Sometimes I think walking, a brisk walk does help. Talking to someone. Even a slow walk. Painting, whatever it is makes you feel good in that moment. At least change your mind for just a few moments so you could start to see things with a little bit of clarity. Really give yourself that level of respect. Give yourself that level of love to know that there is always a solution.
Correct.
Because we need you. Each of us have a purpose here. And for some reason, when you take your own life, it's as though you've cut short that purpose and the rest of the world doesn't benefit from that. But for the rest of the world to benefit from whatever your purpose is, it means that you are fulfilling your purpose, and that's something for you to feel good about as well. So, whilst we talk about suicide and suicide prevention and the numbers increasing because life is lifing, just remember you're not alone. All of us going through something, trust me. And so talk to someone. Find someone. IODK, please share. I keep saying IODK, my name is Johanse.
But I mean, the last name is IODK, the company is IODK. So
right, so
IODK
that's why it's
fine.
stuck in my head like IODK, because I want you to share with the audience where they can reach you.
Okay. Again, my name is Johanse IODK. I'm a behavior change consultant and founder and owner of IODK Consultancy. Our numbers are 432-4635. Again, 432-4635. You can find us on any social media platform at IODK Consultancy. That's IODK Consultancy. We have an office in Port of Spain at Richmond Street at the Portuguese Association. We also have an office in Gulf City Mall, level 8 at Regis offices.
All right, okay.
All right. What else you need to know? Just call.
Just call.
Just send a question. I mean, and people do it already, I get questions sometimes 2 a.m. in the morning, 3 a.m. sometimes I wake up, hey, I need help with this. What solution with this? How I could find you? My son need this, my daughter need this. And again, even if I don't have the solution, I'll make sure and find link with somebody in my network or whatever to find the solution, because there's always a solution.
There's always a solution. Johanse, thank you so much for coming in to share with us again. And I really do hope that this rests on someone's heart, their minds, especially for those who are contemplating or really going through a difficult time right now. I really hope that you take the time to listen to this. And for the general community, when we have a month or a day of observance, it's not just to say, it's just a day for everything, but really it's for us to take cognizance and take a few moments out of our daily routine to pay attention to something that could possibly save yours or someone else's life. So I really do hope that families who have gone through this before, that you have been through it, so you know how it is to encourage someone to step away from a thought like that. And for those who haven't been in that space before, celebrate that you're choosing life, because life is beautiful.
Right.
It's absolutely amazing, even with the things that make you feel like, oh gosh, boy, it is amazing. Because you know what, after that overwhelm, there's always lightness after the dark. Always remember that. So I wish you a very peaceful day today, a powerful day today, Johanse, and to all of us here. It's 9:30. 9:37 in the morning. Stay with us here on Heartbeat Radio 104.1 FM. Of course, they didn't like to talk. We got some Medusa, James Carter here for you with some bad memories.